Hi everyone, welcome to this event. Today we are going to talk about Polkadot Cyber future, and we are going to have speakers that are going to tell you more about the Polkadot ecosystem. Just to recap a little bit our schedule of this event, the first presentation will go from Cho, who will tell you more about Polkadot. Then Sang will give you more insights of the Polkadot ecosystem and the data and the charts of the Polkadot ecosystem itself. Sam will give you more information about the infrastructure. Ruitao will give you more information on the DeFi on Polkadot and how the DeFi palette works on the Polkadot. And then Daniel will tell you more about the study that he did about open source ecosystem. And nice to have you all there. Thank you so much for joining. And we can kick off with Joe. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Annette. So I'll start by sharing my screen here. Oh, okay. They kicked me into a new session. Okay. Thank you, Annette. I'm going to share screen. Okay. Can someone confirm that it's shared? Although from this kind of vortex I'm seeing, it looks like it is. So yeah, I'm not going to talk that much about Polkadot specifically. Most of the kind of like talks that we've done before have been on like Polkadot, the relay chain, and how the system works. And I'm actually going to talk about one of the parachains that that I'm working on. So it's called Statement, and I just thought that this would be kind of fitting with like the overall theme of the event. So there's kind of like this ecosystem day talking about like DeFi and stuff, and then there's like the second event that's going to be talking about like NFTs and everything. And so I want to talk about like some of the say like standards we're developing and tools that we are going to hopefully make available to the entire ecosystem. So Statement is going to be one of the parachains, we hope. And yeah, I'm going to talk about that today. So just as like a really quick overview into like what parachains are, like if you're kind of new to the Polkadot ecosystem, we have this like relay chain, which is kind of like the, it provides like security, contextual guarantees about messages and stuff, but like most of the functionality of the network actually takes place in parachains. So you can think of parachains as being like specialized layer one blockchains. So I would even call like smart contract blockchains specialized. Like smart contracts are kind of specialized in allowing permissionless deployment of code. So you don't need to trust somebody to let them deploy code to a smart contract platform. But that also like the ability to let people do that permissionlessly also adds like a lot of kind of overhead, like gas metering and these other things. So we've seen like a big trend of people who kind of like build something on a smart contract platform, but then find it doesn't really meet their needs, and so they want to go build something that's specialized. So like an example would be like Flow, like the Flow chain that's like just for NFTs and this kind of stuff. So for parachains, it can really be anything. So you can kind of put like any kind of logic into these parachains, and they could be like these smart contract platforms or like very specific applications that are just kind of like coded directly into the interface of the chain. And then we have like a bunch of these different parachains. So the slots are limited. They're kind of like execution cores, like on a CPU. So if you think like you get a CPU and it says it has like 8 cores or something, we kind of think Polkadot can support like 100 to 200 parachains, but they are limited. And then we have this protocol called cross-chain message passing, or XCMP, and it allows these chains to send each other messages. So this is like a graphic that I threw together last year So it's kind of like a version of sharding where you have the shared state, and like the relay chain is kind of like a light client to all the parachains. And we've called it like heterogeneous sharding before. And like the cool thing is that like it's kind of both homogeneous sharding and heterogeneous sharding. It's heterogeneous from like the user perspective because all these different parachains can have like different API and different functionality. But from the relay chain side, like if you're a validator on a relay chain, all of this gets compiled down in like a WebAssembly blob, and they just actually see an API that has one function in it, which is called execute block. So that allows for like all these different specialized parachains. Um, so kind of like I said, like the slots are limited. We need some way to like allocate them. So if we have 100 slots, we need a way for like different parachains to be able to express like how valuable a slot is. So we have this thing called a candle auction. You can kind of like dive in more in some of our resources like on the Polkadot wiki, but the idea is like we want teams to actually bid their fair valuation. So we want to kind of avoid like auction sniping or people that are bidding like less than they actually value a slot for. And so like when you win one of these auctions, you're not actually like bidding dot that you'll just like transfer. You're actually just reserving it. So you have a lease for like 2 years, and you're just going to set aside some dot or KSM in order to have like to occupy this parachain slot. And when it's over, you can get that dot back. Like if you want to disconnect from that slot, or you can kind of like renew in another auction to extend that. But auctions don't kind of work in every situation. So especially in this kind of like the case of like public goods. So there's this problem that's kind of like old in like economics or like sociology called the free rider problem. So you have some kind of like benefits, say like a library, and it kind of benefits like everybody in the community, but nobody would actually want to contribute to that because um, if you contribute and like you don't really use the library that much, but other people do, like you've paid for somebody else to have that benefit who didn't pay. And likewise, if you don't pay, but it still gets funded, you still get to use it. So the incentive, like whether you want to use the library or not, is kind of like not to pay for it. But people might agree that like this is generally useful on the whole. So like this is something we tried to solve with governance in Polkadot. So we have some chains. So you could say like for example like a bridge to another blockchain like Ethereum or something. Every parachain might agree that it would be useful for them to have some kind of bridge to Ethereum. So much so that they might actually like implement a bridge to Ethereum in their own parachain, which obviously kind of violates this like don't repeat yourself mantra of coding that like why would you have the same functionality in all of these parachains? That's a huge waste. And likewise, everybody might agree that this bridge is useful. So they're going to say, well, if this is super valuable to everybody else, like I'm not going to pay for it because I think that other people are going to fund it. And, and likewise, like I'm not going to pay for it so that somebody who didn't pay for it can use it. So we tend to break these into like two categories, system level and public utility. So the example I just gave of like a bridge would actually fall under like this public utility where it's like something extra that the relay chain doesn't provide, but everybody kind of like agrees that it's useful. Whereas system level is more of like an optimization, something that we're going to do in the future. So right now the relay chain supports all this stuff like governance and balance transfers and staking and whatnot. But really like the main thing we want the relay chain to do is to actually validate parachains. And so it actually makes sense to like move that logic into a parachain, and that would like offload all of this like throughput and like transactions that are happening on the relay chain and move them into parachains, which actually makes room for more parachains. So system level chains are like very unopinionated. It's almost like entirely uncontroversial, just in the sense that like everybody has already agreed that this logic is useful because they agreed that it's in the relay chain. We're just going to move it into a parachain, which actually makes room for more parachains. So finally, with that introduction, get the statement a little bit. So statement is a parachain that's dedicated to promise-backed assets. So it's like, what do I mean by promise-backed? So it can mean a lot of different things. They could be like, they kind of vary in like trust. So you could have some application like on a smart contract platform that says, you need to have a balance of X tokens in order to use our platform. And that is kind of like, it's backed by an on-chain promise. Like you can see in like the smart contract of that dApp that like it requires you to hold some assets. And so you can see that by like having this asset, the promise is basically like guaranteed to be fulfilled. Like you can trust that you have that access. Or you could have like reserve backed promises. So you could say like, well, I have some Bitcoin in this account, and like here's a signature to show it. But like I'm going to just mint like a wrapped Bitcoin as an asset on this chain. And so you do kind of like trust that like this person is going to respect certain boundaries about like how they manage that. Or you could have like an asset that's like, has like no backing, that's like on or off chain. Somebody could just say like, oh yeah, if you have this token, you can do whatever. But you don't really have any cause to trust them. So that's kind of like globally what I mean by like promise-backed assets. So we can think of like wrapped assets from other chains, stable coins, and eventually some other stuff like NFTs. So the kind of like core functionality of this chain, it's extremely lean. So it's basically like one palette. A palette is like kind of what we call a module in Substrate. But it's like the assets palette, and it contains like some very limited functionality. So you can like create an asset, and when you create an asset, you kind of designate a management team, and this management team can like issue, burn, freeze, thaw assets, and also add some metadata. So like a symbol, a name, like some other information about this asset on chain. And we're adding some more features like to be able to like lock and reserve these assets, and also have like an interface for users to like transfer or like approve a transfer, and stuff like this that like a lot of applications use. We're initially focused on fungible assets, but we do have like a kind of like a spec and roadmap for non-fungible functionality. So that's on the way, maybe like a couple months down the road. And then some other like kind of like general features. So like proxies, multi-sigs, utility, which allows you to like batch transactions into like a group. And the fees and deposits are going to be like quite a bit less than the relay chain. So initially about 1/10. So that means like, if you use like the proxy on Polkadot, you have to reserve 20 DOT in order to set a proxy account, and use that functionality. And on statement, it would be about 2 DOT. So looking about like a 10x reduction, just because it's a lot more efficient to actually execute stuff in Parachains. And actually like, because we plan for this to be like one of the first parachains in the network, we can only really do about 1/10. But actually, like once we see how much the system can scale and like how many parachains we can add, we estimate that we can get this down to about like 1/50th. So it would actually be like quite a lot cheaper, and like user friendly to use like the proxy and like all of these kind of like features on this chain rather than on the relay chain. So yeah, like how do we actually like manage this chain? And so this kind of gets into like the I guess the issue. Sorry, I should have like presented this so that it's bigger. Yeah, sorry about that. Like so this chain is a little bit special. In most parachains, like we kind of let them, if you win a parachain slot auction, you kind of get to do your own governance. It's your own community. It's your own like layer one blockchain that you've built. And so you get to govern that and kind of decide like what to do with it. Like it's your slot, your governance. But since statement is planning to be a common good chain, I actually can't guarantee that. Like we're going to make like a proposal to the Polkadot community and go through like the governance process of like an on-chain referendum and get this approved. But assuming that it is approved, this is not meant to be like some private, chain that has like won a slot auction. It's meant to be a common good for the whole ecosystem. So it needs to stay aligned with that. And so actually like the governance um, of statement is matched to the governance of Polkadot. So like if we want to do a runtime upgrade and add some new functionality to statement, or change some parameters, we'd actually go through the governance process of the relay chain. So we actually say that like the governing body of statement is the governing body of Polkadot. So that's kind of like one of the first cross-chain things that we've done. If you're kind of familiar with like the code base, you'll see that like some origin equals like, a council. But statement doesn't have a council. It's saying like, I actually don't know anything about a council. I want like my council to be the council from another blockchain. So that's a pretty cool thing that we're working on. And then like some of the assets functionality, so like kind of like the major things like runtime upgrades and whatnot will be going through the root origin, so like full on-chain referendum. Some of the other stuff like the assets functionality, like registering an asset or something, that's going to go through the relay chain council just to kind of like reduce the referenda like count. Like the relay chain would just be congested with like all of this stuff if it had to deal with like all these parachains. So that's going to be the council, but we can actually override that by a referendum. So like a referendum always like supersedes the council. So this is like kind of to reduce some congestion, but still ultimately like the entire stakeholders have the final say. And then like, so as far as like who wants to be collators, the rewards are only transaction fees, and we're coding up like a very simple staking palette where we just say like, you need a fixed bond in order to be a collator, and then you can join the set and be a collator for this parachain. So like, what is kind of like the role in like the ecosystem for statement? Because we have like this very basic interface, and so you can kind of like create an asset, you can manage it, like set some properties, issue the tokens, burn them, and the people who hold them can like transfer them. But like, there's no smart contracts. There's no like kind of like super advanced or customizable interaction with these assets here. So like, where does this actually fit in the ecosystem? So first of all, like on statement, assets are first class citizens. So if you think about like, say, an ERC20 operation on Ethereum, we see that like these transactions have been made probably hundreds of thousands, if not millions of times, but we're still metering them. And if you think about like, gas metering, it's like gas is like almost like a very familiar concept to us now, but it's like, well, wait a minute, like if we've done this a million times, why are we metering it? Like we know exactly how many resources this consumes. So we can actually just say like, hey, we know that we're doing this operation, a transfer, and we can just like kind of like fix a transaction fee for this, and we don't need to like meter it or anything. We can just kind of let it happen. So it's going to be much more efficient than like actually putting this like asset functionality into like any smart contract chain. And then other chains can use this in various ways. So they could use statement to like actually send the tokens. So send the token from statement to some other parachain via XCMP and deal with that token like kind of like in their own parachain. They could also, and I think this is actually like a more interesting way to go about it and interact with like tokens in general in the ecosystem, is to execute the asset transactions asynchronously on statement as the effects of your own execution. So what I mean here is you could have a smart contract that says, okay, we're going to go through this logic in an application, and at the end, we're going to figure out that we need to send, 20 of token A to this address and 50 of token B to this other address or something. And at the end of that execution, we can actually just put together a batch of transactions and not actually have those tokens in our smart contract platform or on our parachain, but just send this batch of transactions to statement and say, hey, we executed some of our custom logic or whatever, and we need these transfers to be made. And it like statement would just execute that, and actually everything just stays on statement. And also like using statement as a registry to prevent token bloat. So if you think about like cross-chain messages, chains might actually have to say like, well, I don't want people to spam me with like a bunch of tokens because that's going to like take up a bunch of space in my chain. So I want some kind of like proof that there has been like a deposit or something for this token. So statements can kind of be a registry for that, where like there is a deposit to create a new asset on chain. And so other chains can look to this and say like, okay, like you've registered this asset on statement. So therefore, I'm okay with accepting it on my chain. So finally, the roadmap, like when is this going to happen? Definitely check out our repo at Parity Tech Statement. the launch process, we need a few more relay chain features, especially around XEM. So like this ability to dispatch a message like from the relay chain council or relay chain stakeholders via referendum to a parachain. And then our timeline, launching on Rococo, possibly today, although of course no promises. We are trying to launch on Rococo today. And then Statement obviously has a cousin on Kusama. It's called State Mine. So we mine the raw materials on Kusama in the coal mine, if you will. And then we mint the shiny assets on Polkadot. So yeah, there's going to be State Mine on Kusama and State Mint on Polkadot, exactly the same functionality. And I have 48 seconds left in my 20 minutes. So I will end there. I don't know if Annette can hear.
Okay, yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. So there is a thank you so much for your presentation. There is a question from Joshua. If there are conflicts between innocent data, impersonator, misleading information, malicious information, something that has any special considerations, or is it just relay chain governance which will handle it?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
You can go to questions on the Airmeet.
Where?
On the right. On the right.
Ah, I see it.
Yeah, the questions.
Yeah, I think that's relay chain governance that would handle it, but I guess like I don't see Statement's job as really like. So it's kind of like the assumption here is like these assets are promise backed, and promises come from like outside of Statements. So whether it's like another chain or something that's off chain, like Statements doesn't really have like the oracle or like knowledge to be able to verify that information. So it's kind of like the holders of those assets who have to kind of like do their own due diligence on like whether or not they should trust this asset. Statement really only cares that like you've actually put down the deposit in order to like register this information on chain. But misleading information, I think, is definitely something that relay chain governance could handle. And like I don't really think that like Statement or like me should be making a decision like about whether something is misleading. I think that's better left to the entire governance process.
Perfect. I hope that Joshua got answer to his question, right? Thank you so much, Joe, for attending this event. There are no more questions, and I'm inviting to the stage next speaker, which is Sang from Polka-Warriors. Thank you so much, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Sang, feel free to come to stage and unmute yourself.
Hi guys. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So, hello everyone. My name is Sang and I'm the founder of Polka-Warriors. It's my pleasure to participate in Cyber Future on Parachains today. And
you could cut out. Sang, we can hear you. Sang. Is everything alright? Okay, I guess Sang has some technical issues. Um, Sam, are you ready? Can we switch speakers really quick? Hey Sam, though, are you ready to present? Or Sang is back? Okay, Sang is back, that's fine. Sorry for that. Yep, it looks like the voice is gone from Sang.
Advantage is it is inevitable. That is this
Hi
ecosystem.
Sang, you got cut out, so can you please start your presentation from the beginning?
Okay, let me try again.
Because we weren't able to hear you, so. Can you share a screen?
I can share the okay now.
Yeah, perfect. Right.
Okay, so maybe I start again. Okay, so hi everyone. So my name is Sang. I think I have to restart my presentations, and I'm the founder of Polka-Warriors, and it's my pleasure today to participate in Cyber Future on Parachain. The topic is of my presentation today will be Polkadot, the ecosystem for the future. So let me introduce about Polka-Warriors. So Polka-Warriors is one of the biggest community of the dot holders around the world, and it is a place for the discussion about everything related to Polkadot and all the project with a great impact in the Polkadot ecosystem. With a team of experienced and enthusiastic people, that we do hope that we can share the knowledge about the Polkadot ecosystem with the community. So currently, Polkadot is emerging as one of the newest and the most popular blockchain. And today we will stand from the perspective of the community, the developers, and the investor to find out the reason why Polkadot is the ecosystem for the future. First of all, we start with the perspective of the community. And from this slide, we can see the explosion of the Polkadot universe. It is inevitable that the ecosystem has exploded quickly last year. And you can see the number is very clear evidence for this. At the beginning, there's only like a few projects in the Polkadot ecosystem. However, until now, we have like more than 500, including the project, the VC, the community, forum, media, KOL, and influencer. And beside that, the total market cap of the ecosystem is 60 billions, with more than 240K holder all over the world. And I'm very happy that this number is still growing every day. Okay, so let's take a look at the DeFi ecosystem of Polkadot. Over the past years, DeFi had risen to become the widely accepted use case in the crypto ecosystem. And Polkadot can offer an impressive ecosystem, allowing it to be scalable and operable across the platforms. That's why we can see that many types of DeFi products in the Polkadot ecosystem, including the fixed interest rate one, the insurance platform, U aggregator, DEX aggregator, derivative, no loss lottery, decentralized future, permission-led option trading, and credit risk protocol for lending and borrowing. Recently, we can see different projects in the crypto space integrating into Polkadot ecosystem, and we can see some names like Chainlink, Compound, the Grab, Icon, and these projects are currently run on Ethereum, but now they still want to expand it into the Polkadot ecosystem to make use of its advantages. Okay, let's see. Look at the example. At the beginning of March, Compound Finance announced a prototype called Gateway. which allow either to borrow the asset derived from one chain, such as Ethereum, with collateral from another chain like Polkadot. And the integration between Moonbeam and Balancing, they hope Balancing protocol will provide useful DeFi service for Moonbeam and Ethereum compatible smart contract parachain. And finally, the Graph, an indexing protocol for organizing blockchain data, also announced integration plan with Polkadot to expand the decentralized indexing to Polkadot growing layer 1 parachain ecosystem. Okay, so in this slide, we talk about the two important factors I think that we want to mention is the speed and the cost. It is clear that DeFi explosion, especially on Ethereum platform, has get a lot of new users. However, the transaction fee of Ethereum are really unreasonable. Too much is a big hurdle for the user, especially the one who just like newbie to the market. For example, that if you have like $100 to use for lending platform, and you need to pay like a $30 per transaction, and it is horrible. And I think that is the DeFi biggest barrier. And with the optimization of Polkadot mechanism, we will solve this problem. And TPS is another important element in the money transaction. You can see at the table here, and like Polkadot and Kusama with 166 like TPS capacity. And Polkadot has a sophisticated system of government in which that own dot holder can have a right? Dot holder can make a decision related to develop the ecosystem in the future. So that is a council of 30 members who are responsible for representing passive stakeholders, submitting important proposals, and in optional conclusion, canceling dangerous or malicious proposal. For the next part, we will stand from the perspective of the developers. Present that many people, developers building the project on other blockchain. So which feature of Polkadot make them decide to switch to Polkadot? Okay, so the special feature of on blockchain in this ecosystem is that they are built on the substrate framework, the backbone of Polkadot. And building a blockchain on a provided framework is much easier than building from zero, right? So besides, in case a developer want to fix or update their blockchain, they can easily do it without a hard fork. And building blockchain on Polkadot can help to solve the problem of lacking interoperability. It is very easy for a blockchain in Polkadot ecosystem to connect with other substrate-based blockchain. And by doing this, it will be able to pass arbitrary message to other chain in the Polkadot network. For example, that in February, Plasma Network and Acala successfully complete the first cross-chain message on Polkadot and Kusama testnet Rococo. And furthermore, another advantage of Polkadot ecosystem is that Parachain is connecting to it will be secure. So I want to mention the security here. So thanks to the central relay chain, all Parachain will share and benefit from the security, scalability, the interoperability, and govern of Polkadot. Polkadot's cross-chain composability allow any type of data and access to be sent between parachain and opening up a new host of new use case and a new application. And apart from these obvious advantages, Polkadot is the only ecosystem I think having the largest number of vibrant hackathon, and which that attract the attention of large number of people around the world. And until now, there have been like 8 pre-hackathon event, including like 4 office hour, 4 workshop, and 6 hackathon AMA with the winning team. And besides that, the number of enrolled team had reached like 35, and 20 in that were selected for the demo pitching. Last but not least, the developers and team who have that innovative ideas, we have the opportunity to receive a huge grant from Web3 Foundation, the non-profit organization with the large volume of money in the crypto space. And you can see it, look at the slide below, and you see the remarkable number here. And now is we move to the perspective of the investor, right? So in the past few years, there are many big names in the crypto space that we all know that all have started to pay attention to the Polkadot ecosystem. Like in December 2021, both Huobi and Binance, the biggest exchange, established a Polkadot supports fund with the investment of 5 million USD and 10 million USD respectively. Not only that, the big name in the crypto space, but we can see that many large venture capital funds, such as that KR1, the Hypersphere, etc., also focus on Polkadot ecosystem. We can see that like more than 50% of the investment portfolio include the view on Polkadot, and there's fund focusing 100% on Polkadot project, because I think that we share the same belief that Polkadot will be the ecosystem for the future. And besides for the big investor, what makes the retail investor interested in the Polkadot ecosystem? I think it is because it is mechanism. With the PLO model, the more project participate in the Parachain auction, the less dot will be calculated in the market. So that this will create a scarcity of supply, and because of this special mechanism, Polkadot had successfully attract many small and retail user investor from the market. And as we have seen, that the potential of Polkadot ecosystem is enormous. Now, I think let's take a look at the Polkadot 2020 overview here, and we will try to predict how remarkable this number will be this year. And don't forget that the Kusama Parachain auction is coming very soon. And PolkaWarriors will continue to be the pioneer community in supporting the user, the developers, and the investor in the whole Polkadot ecosystem. Okay, thank you guys for your time. And if you have any questions, just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Sang, for your presentation. Does anyone have questions from the attendees or even from speakers for Sang? No questions? Okay, anyway, Sang will be in the event for a while, so you can ask questions in a live chat and he can answer via chat. And the next speaker is Sam Zhou. So welcome, Sam. Please come to the stage. Sam, can you hear us? Are you there? Perfect.
Yeah. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right. Can you see my screen too?
Yes.
All right, cool. Right. Hello, everyone. Thanks, Daniel and Annie, for organizing this event and having me here. I'm Sam. And my team and I are currently working on two Polkadot infrastructure projects, OnFinality and SubQuuery. Both of the projects are essential infrastructure services to decentralized developers. So with more and more teams building Parachain or substrate-based chain in Polkadot ecosystem, there is a need to have a managed blockchain infrastructure service provider to simplify their development process, just like how AWS or Google Cloud Platform or Azure help or simplify the current software development. That's what OnFinality provided for blockchain development team or DApp developers. So one of the challenges for the blockchain development team is the blockchain environment setup. I'm from a development background. I knew the pains, for the development team. Even a small environment issues might block the whole development team for hours or even days. So the team shouldn't waste time and the developer resources on managing the infrastructure or deploying blockchain nodes. They should be only focused on their business logic development. So every blockchain project has a need to process and query decentralized data to support more complex dApps. For example, you like viewing all your staking rewards from the Polkadot chain in your dApp. So basically, SubQuuery provides data service to make the chain data more accessible. Yeah, OnFinality supports a growing team with infrastructure and API services. At this stage, OnFinality is a software as a service combined with infrastructure as a service platform. So our pay-as-you-go solution for dedicated nodes is perfect for someone who likes having their own node. The node can be used as a full node for development purpose, or validator node for staking purpose, or collator node. Collator nodes is a new node type for Parachain. With only a few clicks, the platform will deploy the dedicated nodes to any cloud in a matter of minutes. The platform is currently supporting the majority of the top Polkadot ecosystem protocols like Polkadot, Kusama, Moonbeam, Acala, Plasma, Bitfwd, Centrifuge, or extra. So what I'm gonna do is probably I'm gonna quickly share go to our website. So basically, this is our OnFinality website. So you can see we provide API services, dedicated node, and manage the infrastructure. So let me quickly log in. So basically, we'll first log in, then you will see a dedicated node and the API services and the network definition and the settings. Because as I said, OnFinality is a software as a service platform. So it's currently still traditional like software platform. You need to bind your credit card in order to use the platform. So for dedicated node, basically, it's only a few clicks, you will get your dedicated node. Let me quickly demo it. So in the dedicated node panel, when you click new, so you can choose from the protocol list. In this example, I click Polkadot. Then you give a name of the Polkadot, for example, my text, Polkadot. Then you can choose the node type. You can choose as a full node or validator node. Because currently we're supporting Parachains as well. So here we're gonna have another node type called a collator. So if if the Parachain is live, so you're gonna choose one of the cloud providers. In this case, I'm gonna select AWS and select the region Tokyo. Then you can to choose the different configurations of the node. So by default, we give you the recommendations, medium size node. Then also the storage size. Also, you can customize, choose the customized options, small node, medium nodes, large node. So small node is very small. This is probably just one CPU with 2 gig memories. Medium node is two CPUs with 4 gig memories. Then you just simply click next. Then give you node detailed summaries. Then click create node. Then what happened was, back to the node list. You will see my past Polkadot is processing. So when you click it, you will go into the details to see it. Because normally it's gonna take like few minutes, up to few minutes to warm up the node. So let's go back. I just click one of the nodes. See that the status has been changed. It's initializing. The first status is progressing. Right now, it's initializing the node. So when you click one of the node, you will see the details of each node. You see the node type is a validator node. Is a cloud is in AWS. The region is Tokyo. That's the image version of the node. Then the status is running. So that's when you create it. Then you can see the statistics of the node, such as CPU usage, memory, and storage. Then also you can have the RPC endpoint and the WebSocket. Basically, as a developer, you can using the RPC endpoint and the WebSocket, directly in your dApp. Then we have a few controls. You can basically upgrade your node spec, upgrade your storage, or upgrade your image. Then you can, restart it or stop or terminate the node. So basically, what we, with all the, the UI we have, we also provide command line tools. So command line tools basically means, each developer, they don't have to, go to our UI. Basically, they can using our integrated with our command line tools into their CI/CD environment to automatically to deploy, their node or their bootstrap, their network. Then our next is API services. So API services currently is free. So everyone can log into OnFinality platform to enjoy, at least 500,000 requests per day for free. Because currently, our API services is funded by Kusama and Polkadot Treasury. The Treasury are paying ongoing maintenance costs at this stage for the services. We will need to generate and send a usage report to Treasury every quarter. So basically, we just send over the report to Treasury for last quarter. Amazingly, our API services provided 1 billion requests in last quarter and 12 million requests a day recently for Polkadot alone. So we can see the trend of Polkadot is getting really hot right now from the usage of our services. So let's quickly back to the slide. Okay, so this, that's what OnFinality platform provided. So back to the SubQueery project. So SubQueery basically is very similar to the graph for Ethereum. However, we are focusing on Polkadot. So our proposition is to make decentralized data more accessible. The way how SubQueery works technically are in 4 steps. The first step is to extract the chain data. The second step is to transform and aggregate this data. The third step is to save the data into the database. The last step is to create a complex GraphQL query for the user to use. So basically, we just released our, our SubQuery full service last week. So probably I can quickly go to the website to have a look what it looks like. SubQuery. Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is a SubQuery Explorer. Let's go to the subgroup. Yeah, this is a SubQuery website. You can see we have a few tabs. We have Explorer, Project, Documentation, which is a content all the tutorials. Also is GitHub. Basically, SubQuery have three stages of development. The first stage is open source SDK, which is we already delivered like a couple of months ago. So with the open source SDK, each Parachain team basically they can set up the environment, by themselves, hosted by themselves as well. But the challenge is for those the challenges for those Parachain team to set up, their own environment is, they don't want to waste time and resources, to maintain the SubQuery, So the next stage for SubQuery for us is to develop the hosted services, which is we are currently working on. So for hosted services, for each Parachain team or developers, basically they only need to write a piece of components or a piece of code to meet their needs, then upload those code into our hosted platform. Then our platform gonna generate indexing services and GraphQL services for the user. So let's quickly go to the Explorer. So right now, we already have a couple of use cases, is currently live. The first use case is Acala. Basically, they already built, their use cases for their dev to use. So yeah, this is the playground. So you can basically click the play in the playground, then gonna generate to have the query result in the right panel. So basically, the developers can using the endpoint, the query endpoint, for free at this stage. So we also have Bitfwd. Bitfwd, they build their commercial use case as well to support their account like that. Then our team also built a few use cases like staking sum, like a validator threshold. Oh, project. Because currently our SubQuery platform is fully working now. Basically, you can sign up to publish your own SubQuery. So all you need to do is just need to GitHub account. It's free to sign up. You're using your GitHub account to sign up. Then you can create your own project. So you just give a project name, give a subtitle. The most important thing is you need to supply a GitHub repo, which is a host. The GitHub repo can be anywhere. Once you complete it, just create a project, then it will appear into the Explorer. Okay. Yeah, this is our roadmap. Basically, we already completed, like from OnFinality, we already completed the dedicated node. Then we completed our API services. So in terms of the SubQuery, so we already completed the open source toolkit. Right now, just release our first version of hosted services, right? Right now, what we are currently working on next is we're gonna working on SubQuery tokenization. So which is we're gonna build our own Parachain to tokenize SubQuery. So likely it's gonna take a couple of months time to have our testnet live. So currently we have quite a lot of partners currently working with us together in the Polkadot ecosystem protocols, like Acala, Moonbeam, Bifrost, Plasma, like big countries, Manta, Darwinia, Hydrodex. So yeah, I think that's all. Open for questions.
Sam, can you please go to the air meet and then in questions there are 3 questions so you can answer those. Can you see?
All right, I'll see.
panel, attendees chat and questions.
Oh, there's questions.
Where is the chat?
We can help you. Jam is asking a very serious question. How did you ship so many things so quickly?
Oh, sorry. Oh, I thought that we got a time limit, right? It's only got the 15 minutes each session, so.
Yeah. No, how did you ship so many products so quickly?
Oh, because we got a efficient development team.
Nice. That was a light question. Second one is, will OnFinality support decentralized option for hosting nodes apart from AWS, Google, Azure?
At this stage, we're using AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud as our service provider.
Yeah. So the question is, will OnFinality start supporting also decentralized options instead of those centralized cloud providers?
At this stage, we only support central, our whole cloud service provider. We don't have any plan yet, to support decentralized like a service provider.
Mm-hmm. So maybe in the future, but not
Maybe
currently.
not the future, not the current. Because the reason is we are currently still working on the tokenomic design. So once we have a proper tokenomic design, probably we're looking for the options, to have a the decentralized infrastructure service provider. But not at this stage. It's not finalized yet.
Cool. And then one last question from Jam is, will OnFinality support teams building their own chains for testnets and mainnet boot nodes at some point? Or what is the process of getting network on the list? Network selections seem to have only existing networks.
No, currently we already support, different Parachains. Like, what I mean is that because currently OnFinality, we are developing partner portal. Partner portal means, each Parachain team, they can engage, because currently what happened was all the existing protocol OnFinality is supported, we have to manually interact with each Parachain team, to do the chain upgrade or whatever, but it's not scale. So what happens, imagine if we have like a 100 Parachain, right? It's gonna be super hard for OnFinality to support 100 or 200 chains if we all manage by ourselves. So what happens? What we are currently trying to do is we're trying to develop a partner portal. The partner portal means each Parachain team, we give them a portal access, which means they can, to manage their chain spec or chain upgrade by themselves. So whenever they make any changes, to increase, for example, to increase, the blockchain size, the storage size, they don't have to talk to us anymore. All they need to do is log into our OnFinality portal, just change their chain spec or change their recommendation settings. So that's make us super scale. So by the way, because this is with OnFinality, we are part of the builder program. Partner portal is one of the builder program milestones we promise to deliver to parity.
Cool. So keep shipping good stuff. Any other questions? Super exciting. All right.
Thank you so much, Sam, for being our speaker and sharing all the questions and having amazing talk. Thank you again. So I guess no more questions, but you had very good questions. The next speaker is Ruitao. So I'm inviting Ruitao on the stage. Welcome.
Yeah, can you hear me, Annette?
Yes, we can
great.
see our screen as well.
Awesome, so it's great to be here. So gonna share what's Acala with the audience and probably much like go through our testnet as well. So let me switch to the other tab, yeah. Let me present this slides. So yeah, Acala, we are a Parachain that's building on Polkadot. A little bit context about Polkadot. When we decided to build on top of Polkadot, we were asking ourselves, like, what new possibility Polkadot enable for developers, right? So there's so many other base layers. Why did we choose Polkadot to be the place of our deployment? Simply, I think one most significant reason is that Polkadot enable new possibility for developers, essentially allow us to create specialized blockchains without actually sacrificing any security. There's so many unique things about Polkadot, such as like it provides interoperability, it provides highly scalable infrastructure, it enables on-chain governance. But I think the most significant or the most attractive feature is the specialization. So Acala network, in a nutshell, is a specialized network fine-tuned for finance. Acala network itself is a full-fledged blockchain with a set of financial primitive built into the core level. So the advantage of having this financial primitive built into the core level is that you can start to imagine, or you can start to enable a lot of stuff that's otherwise very hard for developer to achieve if we were just build them as like application or build it as smart contract on top of like existing smart contract platform. So in a nutshell, Acala has a number of financial primitives such as stablecoin, a decentralized exchange, staking directed protocol, and there's also a DAO built into the chain level. All these protocol by itself provide meaningful transaction, meaningful functionality and utility for consumers and for users. But they work together seamlessly. So, I mean, one of the core financial primitive is the stablecoin, USD, which essentially is a decentralized stablecoin. So dot holders or any other asset that will be available on Polkadot can be used as a collector once it passes the governance process. And token holders can start to unlock utility of their coins, such as Bitcoin or dots, and start to borrow against their position. This is pretty much inspired by MakerDAO. It's a decentralized stablecoin that could be pegged to anything. For this stage, we're pegging to US dollars. And holding US dollars, you can transact within the Acala shard. You can also transact into other Parachain within the wider Polkadot ecosystem. The other primitive that we built within Acala is the liquid staking protocol, which we call it Liquidot. So the Polkadot network is a proof of stake network. So that means DOT, the native token, has staking rewards. It will be very hard to convince holders of DOT to lock up their DOTs to generate stablecoin, because otherwise you would be competing for the staking reward of DOT. That's why we created a staking derivative product that can be used as a collector as well. So essentially, everyone can mint LDOT by depositing into this trustless staking pool. Holding LDOT is as if you were holding a yield-bearing token of DOT. LDOT will be always redeemable for the original vanilla DOT. And the longer you hold into LDOT, the more you can redeem for the underlying DOT, because the pool is growing. So holding LDOT is as if you were staking. LDOT itself could be also used as a collector to borrow against your DOT position. And ultimately, there's also an built-in decentralized exchange. By itself, it's already quite user-friendly. You can start to trade, but it's also a unified source of liquidity on the blockchain level. Later on, I will demo why this is a unique feature to have a unified source of liquidity. So this set of financial primitive by themselves is already quite user-friendly and has utility on its own. But because Acala itself is also a full-fledged blockchain, we also enable EVM compatibility. That means that all the primitive that we created could be reprogrammed. So developer can start to unlock the EVM capability to deploy Solidity smart contract to reprogram what we have created. So AUSD, LDOT, the decentralized exchange, everything that we created could be reprogrammed. So ultimately, this is essentially a high-level overview of what Acala is. I think the more easy way to run through is to probably run through the testnet. So we have this testnet running for over, I think, 6 months. It has over 60,000 testnet users. It processes about over 1 million transactions already. So I'm actually going to run through the 3 core primitives on the testnet front end. So because Polkadot's design, you barely use Polkadot directly. You will be mostly interacting with the Parachain and interacting with the Parachains front-end app. And this is the front-end app to Acala. This is the wallet. This is your place to manage the asset that you have on Acala. You can transfer dots. You can mint RAM BTC. You can mint Polka BTC. You can transfer USD. And let's navigate to the borrow section. This is where you can borrow against collaterals. So you can see I already have 2 long position opened. I have some RAM BTC used as collateral. I'm already borrow against that. I might want to borrow a little bit more because my collateralization ratio is quite safe. So I'm going to press confirm, sign the transaction. Hopefully, I will receive more USD that I can use to trade. I can also repay my long position, and as long as my collateral is in a safe level, I can enjoy the additional benefit of my Bitcoin. Once I have the stable coin, I can freely go to trade within the DEX. So, for example, I would like to probably use my stable coin to buy some additional dots. So I can freely do that. I can just do a swap. This is again an AM type of exchange, and also everyone can provide liquidity into this specialized network as well. This is likely going to be one of the first stacks to go live on Kusama and the first stacks to go live on Polkadot. Ultimately, there's the staking derivative that we have here. I can stake, I can unstake dots. I'm not sure if any of the viewers have went through the staking process using Polkadot.js. We essentially simplify the actual staking process as if it was just staking, swapping dots to L dots. So maybe I would like to mint 1 L dots, mint 1 dot. I would like to deposit 1 dot and exchange for some L dots. I can do so by depositing 1 dot into the pool, and I will be getting a little bit more L dots I can use to trade. So the L dot that I minted, it's liquid, so I can transfer the L dot to anyone else without actually unstaking. The L dot can be also used as collateral, so to borrow against the stake asset. So by using L dot as a collateral, essentially I'm earning the staking reward while borrowing against it. And ultimately, I can also always redeem back. I can always redeem back by my L dot by burning the L dot and redeeming the dot from the L dot pool. We also have some customization when you want to redeem. So one unique feature of the L dot pool is that you can actually redeem immediately. Let's say that you actually need the vanilla dots immediately. There's some portion of the pool set as liquid, so you can redeem immediately. So let's say I want to redeem 5 L dot back. That's essentially letting about half of the dot back. I can do so, but I do have to pay some fee to cover the otherwise loss yield of the pool. I can also redeem and just wait for the standard unbounding period. In that cases, I don't have to pay for any additional fee. I'll just wait the standard unbounding period. I can also redeem to say that I would like to redeem this stock maybe like 5 days later, and it all depends on supply and demands of the current pool. The goal is to make sure that the sooner you get a dot, that maybe the slightly higher premium you have to pay for this pool. So ultimately, all these protocols, they work each other as the base infrastructure for the specialized Acala network, and all these primitive can be reprogrammed as well by Solidity or X smart contract. And one unique feature of creating a specialized network is that you can do a lot of stuff that's otherwise very hard to achieve if you are simply just design on a smart contract level. So one thing I would like to demo is that actually I'm going to switch to this brand new account. So in this account, I have no other assets. I have only AUSD. In other smart contract platform or in other blockchain, you might have to acquire some native token to be used as gas fee for you to transact. But in Acala, because we are able to customize down to the core level, I can actually transact in this way. I can send 20 AUSD to some other account. I can sign for the transaction and transact. And the system will happily take a fraction of my USD as gas fee and send it to the destination. You can see that I receive a tiny fraction of the ACA from the DEX. That's because under the hood, the blockchain actually changed fraction of my AUSD for ACA using this unified source of liquidity here. So those is like very, very user friendly, but it's actually quite hard to achieve if you were thinking inside the smart contract sandbox. But given the ability for you to customize beyond the smart contract sandbox, this is the power that the substrate firm will enable developers to create. So that's essentially a quick run through of the Acala testnet and the demo. I think we're actually going live on Kusama fairly soon. Pretty exciting. And once the Kusama Parachain has been stabilized, we could see ourselves going live on Polkadot, maybe in the short-term future. So that's essentially the whole run through of the Acala chart. So very happy to be here. That's pretty much my sharing of the session.
Cheers. I actually have a quick question. So I've noticed, the Karura network was just going on a crowd loan a couple of days ago, right? Was it?
No, actually, we're preparing to go in front crowd loan. So I mean, we have the whole flow of like supporting the crowd loans, including the front end and partners being working with. So we don't know when the crowd loan is going to be available on Kusama, but I think it's fairly soon. So we're just getting prepared for that.
Cool. And since Kusama is not exactly a testnet, it's more like a production courageous network for builders to try out things, but it has economic value. I'm wondering, like, if you're doing Acala or Karura, which will be called on Kusama, and it will actually already have economic value and everything, what would it look like afterwards when Polkadot takes off? Like, will there be bridges, or how would it be looking like?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Daniel. If you look at how Kusama get to the current stage, it used to be a canary network. But so what we think is that when we actually, when both network was getting genesis happening, they will be the same code basis. But so when we deploy Karura, when we deploy Acala, they will be the same code basis. But once they go live, they will go into their own distinctive way of development, right? So as far as we understand, the current Kusama network is more of like more wild, more adventurous, I would say, the more risk-seeking, and it's also very, very vibrant in terms of culture. You can see that there's NFT that's happening on Kusama. There's like they give you this feeling of like the new generation. So I mean, because you already have a vibrant community, so Karura is going to serve the financial activity on Kusama. And the Polkadot, in the other hand, looks like serious, right? If you're looking for bank-grade security, if you're like looking for people with suits, that's where most of the activity, most of the economic activity will happen on Polkadot. So I would say that once these two networks went live, they will evolve to this very distinctive community as well. So there might be things that we are willing to do on Karura that will be very hard to pass on Polkadot, on Acala that's deployed on Polkadot. So they would say that maybe we'll be more willing to get a little bit of adventures on sort of character we're willing to accept. I think the token holder might agree with that. And well, we will see how it goes, right? So, and ultimately, I think there will be a bridge between Kusama and Polkadot. And once that bridge being opened, we will see even more possibility that might be enabled.
Cool. And since it's EVM compatible as well, so it's potentially going to be very attractive for existing application on Ethereum to start using Acala or Karura, and basically launch their equivalent applications on Kusama, right?
Yeah, we're already working with a number of projects that they're porting or they're opening a branch on Polkadot. That is one possibility. The things I'm more excited of is that there will be new type of application that would evolve naturally. That will be only possible to do on Polkadot or on Acala. So the EVM capability is just like one enabler of like these two kits needed to create that sort of application. So there's some. I can probably talk about that. I think the staking directive is going to play a major role after the DeFi use stuff, right? So there's a lot more possibility if you can reprogram the staking reward. There's a lot of amazing application that can be developed on top of that. We might see application that might not be possible on Ethereum. We might see application that enable new type of economic activity because there's like now the staking directive you can reprogram. There's also a set of financial primitive you can reprogram. The gas fee can be customized. So many possibilities. So yeah, I'm very excited for that.
Cool. I got a million other questions, but is there anyone else that has some questions? All right. So I think, yeah, well, maybe I'll ask you more questions offline another time. Annette, is the next speaker is myself, right? Or
Yes, you are going next.
okay, so after this stellar lineup of speakers, it's gonna be really challenging to match up. So I'm gonna try and give entertainment, I guess. All right, let's see. Okay, I don't know how I can share my screen here. You can't see my screen, right? No. Let me try another trick. Okay, this trick might work. Can you see yeah, now you can see it? Something in the chat,
We can
yeah?
see it.
Beautiful. Okay, so I guess something that I've been noticing since I've been following the Polkadot ecosystem for the past few years and being in crypto way before pretty active in Ethereum is how just Polkadot used the China factor in a way that no one really else did. And I thought it's really worth revisiting, kind of going back in time to how did it all start and how did we get to where we are today. And I think Sang's talk earlier about the quantifiable details about Polkadot is really fascinating because all this was barely existing at all if we're just looking back at the last bull cycle of 2017-18. So I guess just as a flashback for this last bull cycle of 17-18, people were going to try and make money on ICOs, and there were quite a lot of projects that I'd say got very, very greedy and came out with claims of becoming the Ethereum killer, and they'll be like a lot better in technology, and they'll get much better developers and all kind of promises that I think we can look back and know that they weren't really amounting to much. Now, if we're looking at how things played out in the Ethereum ecosystem, so back after this ICO boom, where a lot of people got really rich, a lot of companies that did their ICO or consensus that had, by sheer fact that Joe Lubin was one of the co-founders of Ethereum and had a lot of ETH, kind of started acquiring companies, started subsidizing product development, incubating, investing, kind of driving a lot of traffic into this influx of talent that come into Ethereum. And when ETH Global was founded, those two forces basically created an unparalleled open source developer movement that all around the world, no one could beat it. You see the Ethereum killers that popped up with ambitious goals like EOS or Tron. They kind of trying to copy paste this, but it was not really organic. It was not really leading much anywhere. And after people get bounties or whatever, they decide to move on. They don't really start developing their own application long term, and they basically seek for a different place. So in parallel, you had those ETH global events happening all over the world. You had ETH New York, San Francisco, ETH Buenos Aires in South America, Cape Town in Africa, pretty much everywhere. And Consensus started having offices everywhere. They started incubating those teams everywhere. And basically, it looked like Ethereum is completely invincible and everyone won't be developing on any other thing, something meaningful. But there was something that was a little bit forgotten. And I think actually we have here on the call Shirley from Linktime. While Consensus and ETH Global were very active globally, there was no presence at all in China. You basically didn't have any meaningful Consensus team there that was doing BD or developing tech. There was no ETH Beijing or ETH Shanghai. So you had effectively a country of 1.4 billion people completely neglected from all this community development and much of the product development as well. And I'd argue China is not just a country, it's like another planet that is extremely tech driven, and it's becoming one of the leading economies. Like in really short time, especially with COVID, we saw how the economy in China compared to many other places performed really well. On top of that, just even on the call today, we had Sam and Ruitao presenting. Both are Chinese entrepreneurs that live overseas, and you see this in many other places, that a lot of the Polkadot ecosystem are top developers that are outside of China or in China that are connected to the Chinese open source community. So all that is basically, China was, like the China Ethereum community was only supported by one relatively small team, Linktime and Unitime, that wasn't really comparable in size to the efforts that ETH Global and Consensus had. So effectively left a vacuum, basically. Ethereum kind of left a vacuum. And what Parity and the Web3 Foundation did is they kind of identified that vacuum and decided not to fight the Ethereum killer fight in the same way that other ecosystems did. And instead, they established slowly but properly a thriving open source community in China by developing the grants program there, partnering with different open source developers, like the Rust community lead are early partners in the Polka ecosystem. They built the localized team for Web3 Foundation, the Parity Asia focused team, and essentially back in 2019, I spent quite a bit of time in China. In 2020, in the beginning, before traveling globally became difficult. So Gavin and many other people from Web3 Foundation and Parity used to come to China every month or every second month, and they didn't just tour in Beijing or Shanghai or the major centers. They went to Chengdu and Chongqing and Shenzhen and Nanjing, and basically pretty much every city that has a tech scene in it, no matter if it's first, second, sometimes third tier. They really established meaningful relationships with the core leading people and kind of seeded all this, and from there also partnered with developers all over the world. And I think that now it looks like it's just like a fact that Polkadot is extremely strong. But back then, this was a very contrarian move that I thought was really, really nice to see. And yeah, I guess something that's already visible is just the sheer number of projects in Polkadot right now. not only in China, but quite a lot in China. And the caliber of talent is really unparalleled in any other ecosystem. Another factor that is also an indicator for health of the ecosystem is venture activity. So the funding that goes into Polkadot projects is not coming only from whether it's Web3 Foundation or Parity or the treasuries of the chains themselves that have all these grant program. It's also from investors that are basically believing in the future potential, and quite a lot understand that actually Polkadot and Kusama is an imminent contender to something of the Ethereum scale. So if Polkadot will be on CoinMarketCap valuation equivalent to Ethereum or potentially more, it wouldn't be surprising many other people already. So we're seeing a growing mindshare basically gravitating towards that. And yeah, that's kind of a bird's view of that 3 years quick history of Polkadot. So I guess any questions before we start concluding the event? There is something in Vietnamese that I don't understand. It's probably not for me. Yeah, anyone, any questions?
Oh, Jam asked a question, but he didn't finish his one. Hey, Jam, can you please finish your question?
All right, I guess. Where was the question, Annette?
It wasn't actually a question. It's in questions,
yeah,
but it's not
question.
finished.
Yeah, personal question, always.
Those are the best. Yeah.
All right.
It was very insightful, though.
Yeah, I think it's just a teaser that Jam threw there, and maybe it's too personal because it disappeared. So, all right, I guess, what's the conclusions, Annette?
The conclusion is that thank you so much all for joining the event. We will publish the recordings soon on the Bitfwd social media and into the channels. And I was taking notes from this call, so hopefully we will have some sort of sum up article coming up probably next week or week after. And if there are no questions for speakers, then we can move to the seats to the lounge or just finish the event. Oh yeah, Joshua. The question was eaten by the internet for you, Badgers. So I guess that's pretty much it. Any last words from speakers or attendees?
Thanks for organizing, Annette, and thanks everyone for joining, and the wonderful speakers as well.
Thank you, guys, and I hope to see you in Vietnam. We got.
Cheers. Awesome.
Cheers.
Thank you, Daniel.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Yes. Yay. Okay, bye guys.